The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus entered this village where a woman whose name was Martha welcomed him. She had a sister named Mary, who sat beside the Lord at his feet, listening to him speak. Martha, burdened with much serving, came to him and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to the serving? Tell her to help me." The Lord said to her in reply, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and worried about many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken from her." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Lord.
Praise be Jesus and Mary. We have two choices for our votive Mass here. One would be the one we did last year when we came here, which is the Mass of the raising of Lazarus. But today we've chosen to do the votive Mass in honor of the three saints of this village, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. We recall the hospitality they showed Jesus, since we recalled just last Sunday, just 2 days ago, the raising of Jesus from the dead, or the raising of Lazarus from the dead. And Martha and Mary had their house here, a short walk from Jerusalem. And Jesus stayed here when he came to Jerusalem, especially during the last week of his life. Here we're only about 2 miles from Jerusalem, about an hour's walk. And now, because of the wall, it takes longer to get to Jerusalem. But it was a nearby place, a place that was convenient for Jesus as a base, so that he could also be safe outside of the city, not having to worry when he was having supper that someone would come from the Jewish leadership to arrest him. And the theme of hospitality is one theme that's sort of underlined in the readings here. That's what we have the first reading speaking to us of. And St. Paul, thinking of that reading, wrote that, or exhorted, "Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares." And Abraham didn't know who it was that had come to his tent. He's simply living one of the key virtues of nomads, which is this virtue of hospitality. And it's especially typical of those who live as nomads in the desert here in the Middle East to show great hospitality to those who come by, because in the desert it's something quite necessary. When the one person you run into doesn't show you hospitality, maybe you might starve or die of thirst. So certainly this is important, and Abraham, both as a virtuous man and as a wealthy man, exercises this virtue of hospitality in an extraordinary way. Perhaps we don't catch on because these are ancient measures, but 3 seahs of fine flour is an enormous amount of flour. A seah is a peck and a half, so it's 3 imperial gallons times 3 seahs, so that's 9 gallons of flour that Sarah and the various servants who were helping her were to make into rolls for these 3 visitors. So and so they get a huge pile of bread. They get a steer, curds and milk. They get the finest things. And so Abraham spares no expense to treat these men who've come by. But these 3 men are in reality 3 angels in which the fathers of the Church see the Trinity signified. For when these angels speak, God speaks, because God is speaking through the ministry of these angels, through the mediation of these angels. And so Abraham spoke with the triune God through the mediation of these angels, and he was rewarded for his hospitality with the promise of a son, Jacob, of whom Jesus is descended. And in the gospel, we take this virtue of hospitality. We see Martha exercising that virtue, but we're also pointed to the fact that there's something higher, something more important than hospitality. Certainly, hospitality, like the many deeds of charity that we do, many deeds of charity to help the poor or help anyone who happens to be in need. These are important things, virtuous things, things that are pleasing to God. But we must not forget the one thing necessary, which is to sit at Jesus' feet, to meditate His words, to have that relationship with Jesus. And so, Martha is a little too caught up in all the business of doing good, and forgets, to a certain extent, why it is that she's doing good. She needs to purify her intention. She needs to be mindful of God, even as she goes about, as she busies herself about the work of hospitality, about this work of charity. And so, if she had that in mind, she would have seen that what Mary was doing was not being unhelpful, but was focusing on what was more needful, more important, the one thing that is necessary. And Mary, having chosen the better part for herself, the contemplative part, this will not be taken away from her. And so Martha, of course, will learn her lesson from Jesus, and she too, like Mary, will become a saint. It's sort of a question. Traditionally, in the West, the fathers of the Church, especially beginning with Saint Augustine, identify Mary of Bethany with Mary Magdalene, because both of these Marys are washing the feet of Jesus, or wiping the feet of Jesus. Mary, and so they see the two as being the same Mary, and this may be. In the East, the fathers of the Church didn't make that identification. They thought that they were two separate people. So whether they're two separate people or whether they're the same person, at least in the West, the two are identified. And so in southern France, there's this tradition that's where Mary, Martha, and Lazarus went after the resurrection, or more particularly, after Pentecost, after the martyrdom of Stephen, the Christians were scattered. They all had to, or almost all of them had to flee from Jerusalem. And so that providentially carried the gospel to many places. And so the family of Bethany carried it to southern France, according to the ancient tradition there. And there, for centuries, people have visited the cave where Mary Magdalene is said to have lived the last years of her life in profound contemplation amid visions and ecstasies. So let us learn from Martha and Mary, whether we find ourselves living an active life or a contemplative life, to never lose sight of the one thing necessary, to never lose sight of Jesus, to always meditate His words, to always try to find time to sit at the feet of Jesus, to listen to His voice, and to put His words into practice. Praised be Jesus and Mary.